I can't believe it. I cannot believe that this franchise is that stupid. It's a random Tuesday. Well, I want to say random because Steichen already had set this date as a press conference day, but it's a random Tuesday morning. I feel horrible. I don't feel good, and I have to go to school at 7:30. So I'm sick. I don't feel good. I'm in school. I can't leave school. And then all of a sudden, fourth period, or not in fourth period, but at the end of the fourth period, which, to be fair, is my gym class. I'm a senior, so I really have an easy schedule. But at the end of my fourth period, just about to go to lunch, I make a mistake and I check on the feed, which I shouldn't check on the feed in school, but I check on the feed. And what do I see? Bright, wide, and center on my screen when I look at the feed. Breaking. Colts naming Daniel Jones as starting QB for week 1. I crashed out immediately. No, I couldn't actually be mad because, again, in school. But I was pissed. I was angry, and I'm even angrier now because guess what? I can be angry about this now. I can now say how stupid this is after knowing about this since 11 in the morning. This is and may go down as one of the worst decisions in franchise history. No, I'm not hyper boosting this up. I'm not making this a mountain out of a molehill. This is a genuinely terrible decision. And it shows how much of a joke of a franchise we've been since Andrew Luck retired. And even when Andrew Luck was playing. Because we never protected the guy. This decision, while in the eyes of a regular NFL fan, seems like not a bad decision. But in the eyes of a Colts fan who's seen all the practices, who's watched the preseason games, is a horrible decision. Because basic NFL fans watch box scores and not the games. They look at what they see online instead of actually watching highlights. And they just assume. Right? So when an average NFL fan looks at this, they assume that Anthony Richardson played worse than Daniel Jones, which he didn't. They assume that Daniel Jones is going to be a better starter or have better stats than Richardson, which he will not. And they assume that Anthony Richardson is terrible because they don't watch the games. And I've been saying this all last year. If you watch the games versus if you watched box or looked at statistics, you would have a completely different opinion. But at this point, that's not necessarily the point. Of course, I will go back and talk about those plays last year. However, right now, we're talking about this decision, which was made in this training camp, in a battle which Anthony Richardson really could not have won at all. He really could not have won. And when we go through some actual tweets or posts, we'll get to that. We'll see what Steichen has to say. But basically, Steichen has been going on and on about how he wants consistency, even since from March. So, basically, in his mind, He didn't want Richardson starting in the first place. Before they even signed Daniel Jones. And they set up this QB competition. And one QB vastly outperforms the other by everything Colts fans who have actually seen and been to the training camps have said and have seen. But they say Daniel Jones will be better on the line. He'll be better in the pocket. He'll be better past everything this dude Steichen said. None of that mattered. None of what Anthony Richardson did mattered. Because in Steichen's mind, in my opinion, he had this set from the moment they signed. They only wanted to run the theatrics so they didn't make the fans mad. And of course, they made the fans mad now. Because again, in the eyes of a regular NFL fan, they think this is fine. They don't really care. They don't like Anthony Richardson because they've seen the box scores and not the actual games. And they don't watch tape. And they don't see how bad his teammates were at catching the ball last year. And they don't see how he literally led 2 game-winning touchdown drives last year. And they don't see every time he does a good play because all they see is when he tapped out. All they see is the bad interception against the Bears, maybe. Which, I admit, bad decisions, but at this point, that's not necessarily the point. All they'll see is the completion percentage, but again, they don't see the drops. Coming back to this here, if you watch the preseason game, you would know that Richardson played better. But if you were looking at box score, you would assume that Daniel Jones played better because he played more. Because he had more opportunities to. If you genuinely watched that second preseason game against the Packers, and you genuinely thought that Daniel Jones outperformed Richardson with the first team going against the second team, while Richardson had the second team going against the second team, I don't know what to say. Because even in that preseason game, Richardson led the touchdown drive. Daniel Jones didn't. Richardson made passes that Daniel Jones didn't. We saw that 3rd and 13 to Tyler Warren just completely skied. Richardson wouldn't miss that. Sure, there are some problems with the short accuracy, but again, how is a guy going to stop that when he doesn't get the opportunity at all? You're throwing him to the wayside. You're saying, forget you. You're not Patrick Mahomes the second you step on the field, so we don't want you. Instead, we'll take a guy we know he sucks, but he's more consistent. Just because they want to win maybe one more game. And they don't realize they're not going to win maybe one more game. They're going to lose maybe 5 more games than they would have if Anthony Richardson was starting. Because Daniel Jones is not a game changer. No matter how inaccurate Anthony Richardson is, he can be a game changer. He was a game changer. When he came back last year from being benched, he led 2 touchdown drives that won us the game. In the preseason this year, when he came in, he led the only touchdown that him and Jones had in the whole preseason, because they're not going to start week 3. The only touchdown drive we've had ran by either Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson was by Anthony Richardson in the second quarter of that second game. Daniel Jones did not lead 1 touchdown, but he's more consistent. It's just a joke. And genuinely, it's time. You saw the title. It is time to blow the team up. If you are not going to give someone who is obviously Raw a chance, if you are not going to let them play, if you are not going to let them get the reps they need, if you are going to create a play style that does not fit what a person's strengths are, then you don't know what you're doing. You don't know why you even took the guy in the first place, and there was no reason to do any of that to begin with, which means you're wasting time. You're wasting years. Who knows how many years that Earth has in general. You're wasting years. You're wasting time. So, if you don't do good this season, you have to expect that you're done. Which is another reason why this decision was made, because they're scared. They're scared of doing bad, even though they don't realize they'll do even worse with Daniel Jones in. They're going to do even worse with him in. I'm telling you right now, they are going to do worse with Daniel Jones in. Because he just does not fit the play style we have set. We saw Joe Flacco last year. Now, Joe Flacco was even worse. He was a statue. Daniel Jones isn't a statue, but Daniel Jones can't escape sacks well. Daniel Jones can't throw the ball well. And to Steichen, you quite literally came to the organization and you almost turned it around. You almost brought us to the playoffs with Gardner Minshew, the second. You almost brought us to the playoffs with him. Because Anthony Richardson played, 4 games of his rookie season? 5, maybe. First 2 games, he looked really good before he got concussed. Then he got injured again. Taken out the whole season, we had to play with Gardner Minshew. You almost took us to the playoffs with Gardner Minshew and an infinitely worse defense. If it wasn't for Tyler Goodson dropping the pass, we would have went to the playoffs. We would have won the division. How do you go from that 2 years ago to where you are now, where you're too scared to put in the guy that you drafted because you're worried that you're going to lose your job? If you're worried that you're going to lose your job, and I hate to say this because I genuinely like Steichen, you deserve to lose your job. You deserve to lose your job because you don't know how to run a team. And it's unfortunate because you're a great play caller. You have some of the best play calls in the game, but you don't know how to run a team. And then to Ballard, you can't draft. If you are going to put emphasis on drafting Anthony Richardson and your team's just not going to give him a chance, you can't draft. You're wasting years. Like I said with Steichen, like I said with the team, you're wasting years for no reason. And we've said this for a long time, you deserve to be fired too, because you have not done anything in your entire tenure. You've not done anything since you were hired other than make slightly good picks like Jonathan Taylor and some 6 and 7 rounders. It doesn't matter if you can slightly draft. If you can't draft the most important position and not give a guy a chance to even try, then you don't know how to run a team. And the same thing with Steichen. If you don't know how to run a team and you're scared of losing your job, you deserve to lose your job. So if the Colts don't do good this year, it's over. Everyone needs to get out. Everyone needs to get out. I said this the last year when we started Flacco. You don't deserve to have your jobs if you're that scared to try to develop an obviously raw quarterback. It's a disgrace. Now let's move on to what Steichen had to say about this. Alright, so I'm here. This is the start of the press conference. I don't know if this is the guy that recorded the actual video. Obviously, credits to Colts, Matt Taylor. Well, I mean, I guess I can. Yeah, he probably did record this since he is inside the organization. However, of course, all credits go to the Colts organization and Maytay Colts for this video. However, let's just give it a listen. And obviously you can tell I'm mad because I wouldn't normally do something like this. So I am mad.
Start off by letting everyone know that Daniel Jones would be our starting quarterback this season. I thought the competition in training camp was great by both of those guys. I thought they both competed really hard, and it was good to see them cheering for each other and battling the way they did. And you guys heard me talk about the consistency, and that's really what I was looking for. And really the operation at the line of scrimmage, the checks, the protection, the ball placement, the completion percentage. I think all that played a factor in it.
Remember when I was talking about the box score watchers? Right. He's acting like a box score watcher when he watches the guy in practice. He's seen the guy dime up in practice, and he's talking about, oh, we wanted the completion percentage. You know dang well your receivers dropped 10 balls, at least 10 balls in one game last season. At least 10 balls in one game last season. 10s might be an exaggeration, but you saw your guys drop a bunch of balls last season. And you're going to have the audacity to talk about completion percentage. He talks about consistency. Well, we saw in a preseason game against twos, Daniel Jones repeatedly missed throws, literally fumbled the ball when no one was on him, and just Anthony Richardson throwing dimes. Of course, missing some passes. He missed a lot of passes like Daniel Jones, but he can hit on the long passes. He doesn't get sacked, which is a very consistent thing to do. It's very consistent to not take sacks and ruin drives. It's just, I don't know, man. Back to it.
I think Daniel did a great job doing that, and I think AR has made strides in that area, but I do feel that, he still needs to continue to develop in those areas. And had a chance to talk to both of them this morning. They were both great. AR was great. He knows that he still needs to develop and learn in those areas, and he knows that he's one play away. Let those guys know, let the team know this morning. The team's very supportive of Daniel, but also supportive of AR and his new role, and he's got to attack it the right way, and then we'll go from there.
This part is the part that really irks me. He's talking about how Anthony Richardson still needs time to learn. Anthony Richardson, he's just one play away. If he works enough, he can do it. Buddy, he's not starting again unless Daniel Jones plays really bad. Until you're fired, at least. Until Ballard's fired. And at that point, what does it matter? Because you're talking about he looked pretty good. He was making strides, but he still needs to learn. What is he going to learn from? Daniel Jones? He's not learning anything from that. And do they just expect, Daniel Jones to come in, play mediocre, and leave, and they just keep their... Sorry about that. And they just keep their jobs, and then once Daniel Jones leaves, they'll finally be able to start Anthony Richardson a third time. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. And sorry for the spam. The league mates apparently like the spam. They're very annoying. But it's just doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't make sense. You're talking about he still needs time. He's one play away. You're not even going to start the guy in the third preseason game. You're saying he's close when you're not even going to start the guy in the preseason. That's ridiculous. Bear with me. Now over to a guy who I know is in the organization, or at least does interviews. James Boyd. He's a really good insider. He has more clips. And he does the pressers. I said pressures. Pressers. So there's a few we have to see here. There's about 5 or 6. And then obviously players also need to be interviewed too. But one other thing, like I said earlier, he was asked early on, back in the early stages, I think the guy who's the most consistent is going to win the job. Anthony Richardson said he didn't have a chance. And it shows that he was never trusted to begin with. But, again, let me put this on Do Not Disturb just in case. Because I don't want you guys to be pestered. And let's take a look at some of these. So, first one. Shane Steichen believes Daniel Jones can be good because he played good in 2020.
You all can win with Daniel when his career record isn't good, and the last time we saw him play football for the Giants, it wasn't good.
Well, I think that he's proven that he's played good football in that 2022 season. He had hell of a year that year. I think that was the highest completion rate in Giants franchise history that season. So he's proven to do it. I know he's had his ups and downs, but everyone's journey is different, and feel confident in his.
He is basically Steichen's betting on getting a Baker Mayfield, where he just does not look good, although he did look good in the Browns. They just sacked him for no reason. They're betting on a Baker Mayfield where he changes a bunch of teams, finally gets another chance to start, and just plays good, which isn't going to happen with Daniel Jones. This happened back in 2022. It is 2025 going on 2026 in 4 months. It is way too long ago to even think about something like that. And if it does happen, I gotta respect it. But at the same time, I don't expect it because this dude, Daniel Jones, is not good. And we've seen him not play good in the preseason games. Clip 2. Is Daniel Jones the future? Steichen says that he'll see. Which means he really expects this guy to save his job, is what he's saying. He expects Daniel Jones, he expects him to have a chance to play really good and earn a starting job for the future. Mind you, this man is 28 years old, and Richardson's the youngest QB in the league, even though QBs just got drafted. Well, he might be 1 year older. He's 22. 21, 22. Well, he's 22. Some of the young QBs might be 21, I'm not sure. But he's extremely young. He's only gotten 15 starts. But they're going to think a 28-year-old veteran who is on his way out of the league before you sign him is going to become a franchisee. We'll see. And again, so I'm not going to blame him too hard on this because it's something he has to say. But it's obviously not true. He's trying to say in this third clip that he's the starting quarterback for the whole season. That's just not happening. At some point, he's going to get benched and Anthony Richardson's going to come in. At what point will that really matter? Who knows? But at some point, he's going to get benched. But I do think he has to say that in sort of a optics sort of form. Like if he says, if he has a short leash, we're going to give him a shot, and then we're going to see. I mean, that just looks like he has no trust. So I understand that, but I think that's obviously not true. Does Shane see a future for Anthony Richardson, who's been benched twice? He says that's hard to say.
Year for Anthony as a starter. And I say that because, just quite frankly, when players are benched twice, top 10 picks, they don't usually pan out with the same franchise.
Yeah, that's hard to say. Obviously, Daniel's our starter right now, and if something happened to Daniel at some point, like AR's, gets another opportunity.
Like, he's basically saying that Richardson's done. It's, for some reason, they're trying to instill this thought that, no, this isn't over for Richardson. It's not over. He's going to bounce back and he's going to be better than ever. He's done. At least with the same organization that it's at right now. He's done with Steichen and he's done with Bout. Because either Daniel Jones plays good and they keep him, or Daniel Jones plays bad and they all get fired. So you're not going to give Anthony Richardson another chance, at least under your administration. Because you won't have a shot if he does bad. And if he does good, then Daniel Jones is just going to stay. So, no, he doesn't have a shot. And he's basically saying that because he's saying if something happens to Daniel Jones, he'll get another shot. Which means he's bagging on Daniel Jones get injured just to play. Or, of course, Richardson's not actually, but that's basically what he's trying to say about that. This is the clip we saw earlier when he announced it. Completion, line of scrimmage, ball placement. It's just all wrong. And then the last one, he's saying why Richardson struggled.
Why do you think he hasn't been able to, I guess, develop the way you all maybe envisioned a few years ago? And what role do you think you played in maybe not getting to that point?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is, he's been injured, and I think that's part of it. And when you're not practicing and playing, it's hard to, go out there and do the things you want to do. So part of that.
Well, frankly, Steichen, the only injury he's had since the end of the 2025 NFL season, I don't know why I said it like that. The only injury he's had was the dislocated pinky, which he got fixed and got back out immediately. He has not missed a single practice since the end of the last season. He's not missed a single practice. He's not missed a single playing opportunity. You took the guy out in the preseason game, which of course I understand, but you took the guy out when he wanted to play in that preseason game, even with the dislocated finger. He's been healthy this whole time. You're basically saying that it doesn't really matter. You're basically saying, oh, the injuries in the past. Well, frankly, it's not the past. And it's not like our trash organization has a good health, trainer either. Because everyone gets injured. Our whole team is injured. The whole defensive back team, the whole DB room, the corners, the safeties, they're all injured. The defense looks so promising. With the rookies, with the signings. Guess what? All of them are injured. People on offense, the O-line, they all get injured. So you're blaming a guy for getting injured when at mid-season we're playing third stringers. We're playing third stringers and backups because everyone has been injured. At some point, it's not an Anthony Richardson problem. It's a team problem, and it's a trainer problem. And I don't understand how you don't realize that when your whole team is on IR. That's the thing that makes me mad the most. We're blaming that on injuries when the whole team is injured. Just last night, Hunter Wohler, I believe it was Wohler, our 7th round pick who was going to play IR. End of the season. He's done. Just last night. But, Anthony Richardson, he's been injured before, and he got his pinky dislocated, which could have took 5 seconds to fix on his, I believe it was his non-throwing hand. It probably was his throwing hand, but I believe it was on his non-throwing hand. Oh, he's so injured. It's just, I don't know what he's trying to say, man. And you gotta feel bad for Richardson, too. Of course, Daniel Jones' mindset to be as consistent. I mean, Anthony Richardson, of course, PR trained, but he respects the decision. He knows he's making improvements in his game. And he still trusts not only God, of course, which is good, but he trusts the Colts plan in him, which is kind of ridiculous for him to say that, because he doesn't deserve to have to go through something like this, when if he's at a different franchise, he gets way more of a chance. And I thought this immediately when coming out of the fourth period, thinking, and this guy's going to get dogged on even more for something that's not his fault. He's going to be portrayed as the guy that can't beat Daniel Jones in training camp. When, again, Colts fans know he outplayed Daniel Jones. He outplayed him in nearly every practice. But all the normal NFL fans are going to see is Daniel Jones won the starting QB. Oh my goodness, Anthony Richardson, how did you lose to Daniel Jones? No. Have fun in the XFL, but I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to diss on Anthony Richardson. But I take him as a St. Louis Battlehawk. I wouldn't like if Anthony Richardson went to the XFL, but I'd take him as a St. Louis Battlehawk. Back to what I was saying, though. They're going to be like, oh, he can't beat Daniel Jones. Send him to the Canadian Football League. He's the worst QB ever. He's the worst QB ever. And it's just, that's not true. You just got to feel bad for him. But at the end of the day, this is a joke franchise. And it really does not make me want to like him. Of course, nothing's changing. There's no point of trying to change now. I'm still a Colts fan, but I'm not a Colts fan as much right now. And hopefully, one day, when everything is said and done, we'll realize how dumb of a decision this was. Anyway, that's it for this long video. Thank to anyone who was watching this long. Should not be this long of a video, to be honest. However, I honestly do want to make a how the Colts failed Anthony Richardson, because I think his time's done. But that's a future thought for a future day. Not a thought for right now. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later, and peace.